All right. Today we're going to be sipping on our tea and talking about identifying your next move. I've been getting a lot of people who reach out to me and share with me some of their frustrations in terms of landing their next role. This is for you if you have more than 15 years of experience and if you find that you are what I call a jack of all trades. You've done so much in your career. Whether you are a director level, VP level, or a senior individual contributor, and you feel like you haven't really specialized in anything, which makes it difficult for you to identify where you fit in the market, what your positioning is. And when recruiters reach out to you, you are not sure what role you should be targeting. Whether you are currently in an organization where you feel like you got bored, you're falling out of love with what you're doing, or maybe you feel that you could do more, but the environment that you're in your organization does not allow you to do that. I will give you all an example. I was in the financial services industry for a very long time. I will say more than 7 years at one point. And I did not enjoy it. I don't enjoy trading. I don't enjoy the back office stuff. It doesn't feel like I'm making a difference in the world. The problem was when I tried to get out of it, it felt like it was impossible because it felt like my experience was not transferable to other industries. And I would have recruiters arguing with me about how I don't understand industry X, Y, or Z. Oh, you come from large organizations. You don't fit in the startup world. Oh, banks are too slow moving. We are too fast paced for you. I was so frustrated because I did not enjoy what I did, and it felt like it was impossible to pivot. So, hello, Alan and Spencer. So I want to talk about this because I really, you know, um, spent the last 6 years dialing this in. And when people ask me, how do you help people figure out their next move? How do you help people identify what I call their career sweet spot? It feels like a mystery box for them. Because I will tell you guys right now that no one sits down with clients and looks at their material at the same level that I do. I spend a lot of time helping people connect their dots. And in the age of AI, where everything is just so watered down and non personal, it's frustrating because you feel like you're not being heard. You feel like you're just being treated like a number in a lot of coaching programs. And I hate that feeling. And I don't ever want any of my clients to feel that way because you come in as an executive, not because you're not competent. You come in because you want someone to talk to. You come in because you want to feel understood. So let's talk about it. The whole, I've done a lot, but I haven't specialized in anything. I can't define what I'm good at. I'd like to be really good at something, but I feel average at many things. That's what people tell me. I'm a jack of all trades, but master of none. And you feel completely stuck, not because you lack the skills, but because you can't see the pattern of things that you're consistently great at in order to map your experience to roles out there. There is that part where you're inside the jar and cannot see what's on the outside. And then there's the other part is that you don't know what you don't know. It's not like you have a repository of all the roles out there, right? And it is my job to actually be aware of the roles that are out there because this is what I do all day. and create that mapping for my clients. And so today, what I want to do is maybe help you all see a little bit of what's behind the scenes of how I help people identify their ideal role. So, a little story about me is that the reason I got into helping people identify their next move is because when I was in the corporate world for 15 years, I'm going to say that I rose, I was climbing up the ladder. I increased my salary from 40,000 to 200,000. I was managing, multi-billion dollar initiatives in large, organizations. Large organizations was always my bread and butter. And I wore many hats. One of them was enterprise, agile coach. The other one was product leader. I've dabbled into UX work. I've dabbled into, quality assurance. I've also worked across multiple industries. And that's why I'm also very good at helping people identify their own role, is because I've had a breadth of experience myself, and I worked with people in different roles alongside them in order to deliver basically large initiatives. But what was frustrating about this all is that even though I wore so many hats, I still didn't feel like any of those hats, fit me. I still didn't feel excited. I did have some ideas of what I wanted to do, but it just felt like it was far-fetched. Like sometimes I would dream of like opening a dog daycare. That's when I'm super burnt out and I just wanted to burn everything down. But obviously, my standard of living didn't allow me to go in that direction with a condo that I just bought, in Toronto. I've had, notions of opening a daycare because I love, working with kids, and my mom, was an educator. I actually helped my mom, build her business when I was 9 years old, literally from 0 to 1. Um, and then I also felt like what I was doing was just not enough, that it wasn't creating a lot of impact in the world. And so I will say around 2018, I was in a very large, transformation program. I was getting very frustrated. I felt like I could not make the changes that I wanted to make because the organization was very resistant. It got to the point that I was just butting head with, a peer, and he was bulldozing over me. He canceled all my meetings without letting me know. And I just got very offended, and there was just basically a buildup, right? There was just a huge buildup of frustration. So I ended up quitting over text. And when I quit over text, I just didn't know what else to do, because I've tried pretty much everything that I could think of that was within my mastery. I've hired multiple career coaches, and they couldn't help me figure out what I wanted to do. In the very end, I hired one career coach who was the most helpful, and she is a big reason why I am a career coach today. And I remember we had a conversation. It was literally on January 3rd of 2020 when the pandemic happened. And at that point, I was on my last, transformation program at one of the big banks. It was awful. I'm not going to go into detail, but all I'm going to say is that, executive that I was reporting into just made my life miserable. I was getting phone calls late at night. It was bad. Yeah, it was very bad. So I kind of gave up all hope. And I remember telling that career coach, like, I have no idea what I want to do. And that day when we had our call, I had a high fever. My partner at the time had left me, and I needed a job yesterday because I was unemployed. And so she got me to do this meditation visualization exercise since all logic was not helping. And all I could think of was being on a beach in Miami and dancing salsa. That's how burnt out I was. Yeah. So anyway, obviously that wasn't helpful in figuring out what my next move is. But I remember reflecting on all of these journaling exercises that she got me to do and waking up the next morning and thinking, you know what? I really enjoy being a coach. That's what I want to keep doing, but I don't want it to be like a transformation coach or an agile coach because obviously I have a very strong personality and I'm just going to keep getting frustrated when an organization doesn't move as fast as I want it to move. And I realized that, you know what? Maybe I want to work with individuals versus organizations. And I want to help people like me who feel like they don't belong. And so that's what got me into career coaching. Now, when I got into career coaching, my first client was from Nigeria, and I helped him basically go from being dismissed by recruiters and being told that the most he could make was $70,000, even though he was a head of IT, just because he didn't have the Canadian experience, and helping him land a $200,000 role at a very, well-known company. That is when I realized that I have a gift. Now, that was my first, success story. The challenge was, how do I replicate this? How do I systemize it so that I can help thousands of people? Of course, the high achiever in me went into a rabbit hole. I started studying so many basically career coaching frameworks. I don't know if you guys know, but there is a book around, I forget what it's called. I think it's called, what is it called? What color of hang on, I found it. What color is your parachute? Yeah, that's one book that I found that actually talks about how to identify your calling. It was okay. There were some great ideas there. There were some good questions in the book that would help someone figure out their strengths. But the thing that bothered me about all of these frameworks is they tell you what you're good at and what your strengths are, but they don't give you a decisive mapping to roles that are out there and what salary ranges you could be making. That's the frustrating part about it. So I did a certification called Personal Business Model U. And it was kind of funny how I came across that certification because I had this idea of, well, how do I build products? How do I come up with what a product value proposition is? What if instead of using this process to build a product, I used it to help an individual figure out what their value proposition is and how their experience maps to people out there in the market? And so, ironically, as I was trying to Google it and figure it out, at that point in time, ChatGPT obviously did not exist. It was back in 2020. I came across the Personal Business Model U certification, and it literally talks about using a business model canvas to figure out your calling. Maybe I will share it with you guys just so that you can see it. And I am actually certified in this methodology. So here, I'm going to just do a screen share so that I can show you. Share screen, share screen. There we go. Okay, so do you see what it looks like here? So basically, this is a framework that helps you figure out your strengths, your weaknesses, and your value proposition and how to differentiate yourself in the market. right? It helps you figure out what roles you should be targeting. So the components are who helps you, what you do, who you are, how you help, how you interact with people, who you help in terms of customers, how they know you and how you deliver, what you give and what you get. Now, that is somewhat of a helpful framework. But when someone has done so much in their career, yeah, you can answer these questions. But again, the missing piece is great. I know what I'm great at. Let us say I'm great at, collaborating with customers. I'm great at launching products. I'm great at scaling teams, right? It still doesn't answer the question of what role is the right fit. So, what I ended up doing is I developed a career archetype assessment. After working with so many people across multiple industries, we're talking over 1,000 people that I worked with. Yes, I've worked with over 1,000 people and people across multiple countries. I'm at a point where I've pretty much worked with people across every continent in the world. Okay. I started seeing patterns. And I've started realizing that people fit into different archetypes. And depending on what archetype you belong, there are a specific set of roles that align with that archetype. So when people come to me, the first thing that I ask them to do, because it's also a little bit dangerous to rely too much on personality tests. Okay. That's the other thing that I've discovered. There are people with different personalities who can still do the same role. It's not always aligned with the personality you have. The role, your personality doesn't always determine the role that you should be targeting. There's just too many aspects and factors that actually go into helping people identify their next move. But the first thing that I do is I get people to complete a journaling exercise. Now, the journaling exercise is a very important piece of data for me because what it does is it actually allows me to see what people were involved in terms of life experiences and what they've done in their childhood. Because I'm a firm believer that the exposure that you've had in both your career and your life shapes your mastery. So, for example, if I go back to myself, right? I shared earlier that I helped my mom build her business um, as a preschool owner. And that is part of the reason why I am a great coach and why I am a great educator and why I am great at creating curriculums. So it's kind of spooky to actually create that mapping. The other thing that I look for when people complete the journaling exercise, and I have specific prompts to ensure that people give me the right information, is I also ask people about initiatives that they were proud of, right? So, for example, up to this day, I still remember that there was an initiative that I was proud of in the corporate world where I basically helped a client launch a product because I was able to organize the way that the teams were working in such a way that they were all working in parallel so that we can deliver on time. So that also says a lot about me, right? And so these are all of the different pieces that I ask people to share with me in order to connect the dots. Now, the thing is, people think that if they just fill out the information and read it on their own, they're going to figure out their next role. But that's not how it works. It's almost like thinking that you can go and do some blood work and you can interpret your blood results when you don't have the same knowledge that a doctor would have in order to interpret your results. You need someone to interpret those things that you've done across your career. You can't figure it out on your own. And so some people feel like down on themselves and feel like there's no hope for them to figure out what their next role is just because they haven't figured it out on their own. Again, it's almost like going through an illness and feeling like just because you haven't figured out the illness, there's no hope that you'll ever get the right diagnosis. But when you find that experienced doctor who has seen multiple patterns and who's been able to diagnose effectively and has been trained to diagnose, then they can give you that clarity. And this is what I do for my clients. Okay, so I recently had a client, join my program, and he's from academia. He was a VP in his past life, and he was getting rejected. He's been looking and he's been getting rejected. And we found out that a big reason that he's been rejected is because he was boxing himself in to generic product roles. And what he's been doing is a lot more nuanced. He wasn't quite a product person. He wasn't quite a customer experience person, but there was a combination of a little bit of this and a little bit of that, a little bit of product strategy and a little bit of customer experience and a little bit of enterprise, digital transformations and a little bit of cross-functional experience. And I had to take all of these pieces and look at his personality style. He's very extroverted and a relationship builder. And then look at what he's done in his childhood to come to the conclusion that what he should be targeting is director of strategic partnerships. Do you see the magic? That's the thing. And that's something that not a lot of career coaches do, is they don't go that granular with you. They don't spend time looking at your entire history. They just ask you to tell them what direction you need to go or what role you should target. They don't do their due diligence. And the career archetype assessment that I've developed is quite proprietary. Not only does it pull patterns from past clients that I've worked with, not only does it ask you the specific questions to get the right information to help you identify your ideal role, but it actually pulls information from the market, the current market. It pulls salary ranges so that we're not wasting your time applying to roles that don't align to the salary that you want to make. It pulls competencies that belong to those roles. It is so holistic and so thorough that when my clients see those roles and see the report that I give them that analyzes all of their experiences, their history, their childhood, the initiatives that they worked on for the past, 15 years, they're just in awe. They feel like, oh my God, you nailed it. You know me better than myself. This is spooky. And it doesn't take that long to actually come up with that determination. It only takes me about a week. When people have been trying to answer this question for months and years, and they waste their time applying for jobs that they get rejected, where they get rejected. Or you're at a point where you're so terrified of leaving the role you're in because you don't know if there's going to be a role out there where you're going to be happier and excel at. Now, the other blocker that I also see people, struggle with is when you're in the same organization, especially at the director and VP level, you are so risk averse. There's so many factors in play here. You're scared that if you leave, you have to rebuild your reputation. You're scared that if you leave, you might end up getting laid off if you go somewhere else. But here's the thing. You need options in order to make a decision. It's almost like if you're shopping for a house. If you only see one or two houses, of course you're not going to be excited, especially if those houses are not aligned with what you want. But if you see a large number or a variety, if you see houses that are outside of the houses that you normally see, then you are going to be excited, right? So I just wanted to share a little bit of how I help people identify their ideal role. And I also wanted to share that if you are trying to make that decision, if you are trying to figure out what the right role is for you, it's important not to be reckless. It's important not to rely on what your friends are telling you because they don't have all the data. They only know what they know, and they may have a limited perspective on what's out there and what's in the market, that it might actually scare you for nothing, or it might even confuse you. And that's part of the lack of motivation that I see with people. Because they don't have a direction that they're excited about, they end up feeling burnt out. Because burnout isn't just from working hard. Burnout is when you are navigating life aimless, with no goal, with no destination, with no direction. It's like walking in a desert and you don't know if you're ever going to get to where you need to be. And you just keep walking and walking and you're exhausted. And so when you are leading teams at an organization with a poor culture and you just keep showing up with no goal, with no purpose, you're not being recognized. You know that you should be getting paid more, but you feel like there's no other option because you haven't explored. That eventually chips at your confidence. It eventually makes you feel stagnant. And it's not a fun thing. Because I'll tell you something. Life is short. We're not getting any younger. And just ask yourself, how do you want to spend the rest of your career? What is the point of taking time away from your family and showing up just to what? Make money? Even if you are being paid a somewhat good salary, do you feel that that is all you deserve? Do you feel that that's enough? What about your health? What about the time that you're spending worrying about this? Are you present when you're around your family? Can you truly say that you're happy? Those 8, 9, 10 hours at work that you're spending, are you happy? Do you feel that this is the best that you could do for yourself? I would ask yourself those questions. And the thing is, part of identifying your career direction does not mean you necessarily have to leave your job. It means you plan. You just plan ahead and make an informed decision based on your options. Just like anything in life, you got to do your research. You got to do your market competitive analysis before you make a decision. Hopefully this is helpful for everyone. If there are particular topics that you want me to cover, feel free to comment. Let me know if you've heard of any of those books that I mentioned, such as The Personal Business Model You, or what is the name of the book again? What color is your parachute? Now, if you have been at a crossroads in your career and you know that you've been trying to answer this question and you haven't been able to answer it, and you're noticing that you're not happy, then I recommend that you do something about it, because the more you wait, the more you're going to feel frustrated, and then you're going to end up quitting over text like me. And you don't want it to get to that point, because you always want to have you want to have something lined up before you leave, right? I do offer a career diagnosis. Now, I wanted to share with you who this career diagnosis is for and who it is not for. If you have less than 15 years of experience, I no longer work with people who are junior, okay? I can absolutely connect you with other career coaches in my network, career coaches that I mentored who can help you. I've licensed my curriculum to other career coaches. So you would be in good hands. Reach out, send me a DM, and I can connect you with them. But I don't recommend booking the career diagnosis with me, because we're not going to be the right fit at this point. If you have more than 15 years of experience, doesn't matter if you are director level, VP level, or individual contributor, doesn't matter what industry or profession you're in, because I have worked with people across multiple industries. If you are based in North America, whether you are in the US, Canada, or if you are in the UK, those are the 3 regions that I'm currently focusing on, not because I can't help people in, let's say, Asia or other continents, but I'm also trying to be like cautious about my own work-life balance, and I don't enjoy, waking up too early in the morning and accommodating multiple time zones. So if you are in the US, Canada, or the UK, those are the regions that I'm focusing on right now. And I would say mostly US and Canada at this point in time, then there is a possibility that I can help you. If you are able to dedicate 2 hours a week to strategize in your career and to improve your communication, to improve your ability to position yourself, to figure out what's been eating up your time and stressing you out, then definitely book a call with me. Now, if you're there to just vent and complain and you're not coachable and you're not looking for help and you don't want to spend any time, working on this, then please don't book a call with me, because there is a limit on how many people I can talk to. Okay? Now, how do you book the call? It's very, very simple. You can go on my LinkedIn profile and you will find a link to the career diagnosis. So let me just share with you my screen again. Let's see here. I will show you my LinkedIn and how you can actually book the call. So if you go on my profile, I will share the screen here. Where is it? Share screen, window. There we go. So as you can see, friends, this is where my LinkedIn profile is. You can hit the book an appointment button. And on this page, you can click book your career diagnosis. It's going to ask you for a couple of questions. It's only going to take 2 minutes. The reason I ask these questions is because the more information I know about you, the better I can assist you, right? I want to understand what your goals are, if you're looking to land a role with a higher pay, if you're looking to grow your career, because depending on what your goals are, I can create a plan on the call that's customized to you. Okay? So that is how you can book a call with me. I hope that this is helpful. If you're watching this, whether you're watching this live or you're watching this as a replay, I would really appreciate it if you like this video, because what that does is it provides me feedback. And the second thing that it does is it puts this video into someone else's feed, someone who needs this, someone who has been struggling, unhappy with their career, feeling miserable. And whether they work with me or not, this is going to help them get some clarity. Because a lot of you, what you're doing is you're jumping into building your resume. You are doing all the wrong things. And it's almost like a product with an unclear audience and an unclear target. Would you buy a product that's trying to please everyone? No. You will build a product, you will buy a product that matches your needs. And so when you're not clear about what your focus is and what your target is, your messaging gets watered down. This is why when a recruiter comes on your profile and looks at it, they have no idea what you do and they don't call you because your messaging is all over the place. Okay? So this is literally the first step that you need to focus on in order to get traction in this market. The more you're positioning yourself as different in this current market, the better your chances. And that should be obvious, especially if you are an executive and you've been involved in building products, right? Okay. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your evening and talk to you soon.